Hello and welcome to another episode of the Happy Head podcast. And today I am really happy to have Julie Kent MBE. And I'm going to put the MBE next. That's a big part of the story. Hi, Julie. Nice to meet you.
Hi, it's just great to be here. And I like hearing the MBE bit.
Yeah, that must be still fairly new to you because you were awarded it fairly recently. Is that right?
Well, I was awarded it in the Queen's Birthday Honours List in June, but of course, at the time we had, I was notified, but then I was told that I couldn't say anything until the autumn, and I didn't really know when the autumn was. So it ended up being 4 months that I was told that I had it and I couldn't say anything. It's a bit like, I liken it to, you know, your hot boyfriend or girlfriend proposes, gets down on one knee, gives you the ring and says, but we're not going to tell anyone for 4 months. You know, it's like that, I think.
Well, so, why the secrecy? Why are you not allowed to tell anybody? Is it because they want to announce it on a specific day?
No, normally you get about 10 days, 2 weeks notice, but because of COVID, they wanted to award another few hundred. So they wanted the birthday honours list to go out, but then people were nominating other people because they'd done specific amazing things during COVID. And actually, I knew about that because I'm a member of the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire, which has about 140 members. And we are, it's a sort of livery company, and we promote Gloucestershire, and we have a trust fund, and we decide, we don't give out, we give out quite a few grants, but they're only £1,000 each, just small charities. And we were asked, because there's quite a lot of SIRS and a lot of people that have got OBEs and MBEs and things. And we'd been asked if there was anyone in the charities that we were involved with that we thought deserved to have a special sort of COVID honour. And so because they wanted to put those out as well, I obviously didn't get mine for that. I got mine for 30 years worth of charity work, but they wanted to hold them all and then dish them all, you know, announce it all together. So that wouldn't normally be the case.
Okay, hang on, you glossed over that fairly quickly. 30 years of charity work, which is why you got the MBE. Tell me about this 30 years. That's not 5 minutes, that's a lifetime.
It is. Well, what happened was I got married in 1990 and we had our first daughter. And when she was about 2.5, she started to fall over quite a lot. And the childminder said, oh, you know, do you think she's seeing properly? And I took her to an optician, and the optician said, there's something not quite right. I think you need to go to an eye specialist. So I took her to an eye specialist, and he said, I think there's something not quite right. I think you probably need to have a scan. And we had a scan, and we went from the scanning room to Frenchay Hospital in Bristol, where they told us that she had a brain tumour size of a tennis ball in the back of her head. And so for 6 months, we were in hospital, either Gloucester or Bristol. And she died in the June. She was just 3. And we started, which I think is quite common if you lose a child or if you lose anyone. But if you lose a child, and she was our only child, we started the Emily Kent Charitable Trust, which was for children with cancer in Gloucestershire. The first thing we bought actually was anaesthetic equipment for the Bristol Royal Infirmary, because every time she had some chemo, we could never get a slot to see if it had done anything or not, because children have got to be anaesthetised to go through the MRI scanner, right. And they could never get those slots because they didn't have enough equipment. So that was the first thing that we bought, so that other families could be scanned more regularly. And then from that, the Bristol Children's Hospital and at Gloucester Royal Hospital were building new children's units and a hospital in Bristol. And they approached us, those two charities, and both had wards. In Gloucester, it's the actual oncology paediatric unit. It's called the Emily Kent unit. And at Bristol, it was the outpatients. But they've just changed their names there now. All the wards have names like Ocean Ward and things that are more child friendly. And so from that, we had the charity for about 6-8 years. And then we had 2 other children, and we decided to fold the charity. And we'd raised about nearly 300,000
Wow.
over that time. And then I got involved with raising money for other charities, breast cancer, Click Sargent. But now I'm chairman of Cheltenham Open Door, which is a sort of charity that feeds people that are homeless or vulnerable or have mental health illness. I'm vice chairman of a children's charity that has Emily's Ward on it. And I'm a trustee of a disabled children, young people trying to play football in wheelchairs. So it's called Power Chair. And I'm a trustee of that. So really, for the past 30 years, yeah, I've done quite a bit of charity work.
How do you find the time to sort of help all of these different charities and be a mum and be a wife and spend 30 years as a teacher?
Yeah, well, I don't sleep a lot. And some people do say to me, I watch your social media and I'm exhausted just by watching it. At Dean Close, actually, which was the school that I was at, and we lived in a boarding house for 20 years. I looked after these 60 teenage girls. I roped them into it as well. And at Dean Close, I also ran a community action project sort of thing. So every Wednesday afternoon, the sixth formers would have a choice whether they did CCF, did lots of marching and drills, or they could do something in the community. So I would organise them to visit old people or help in a charity shop or form their own charity group. I had my group that was called CAG, and we even had T-shirts, you know, members of CAG, which stood for Charity Action Group, and we would raise money and do things. And so I sort of tied in my job at Dean Close with fundraising as well. And I really wanted the young people who, you know, they were in an independent school, and I wanted them to appreciate the community around them and how important giving to other people was. And when I took them out, you know, sometimes I say, right, we're going to go and see Peggy. There was a lady that lived in sheltered accommodation down the road. And I first met her when she was 85. And because I organised afternoon teas at school, and we would advertise it to all the nursing homes or whatever, and they would bring them sometimes, you know, in special vans, and we would serve them tea and cakes, and our children would entertain. So they'd sing, or they'd play their instruments, or they'd read poetry. Sometimes if we were short of people, we would get the hymn books out and we'd sing hymns with them or something. And Peggy, her birthday was in September, and so I first met her when she was 85, and this September was my first September that I wasn't at Dean Close since I met her. She's 106.
Wow, 106.
And she's 106 now, still alive. And I popped round to see her on 106. She let me in. I said, I knocked on the window to just wave, you know, and then she said, come in. I said, I can't come in, Peggy. And she said, I'll open the door for you. So she did let me in. But when she was about 102, I think it was, I said to the girls, let's go up and see Peggy. And they were like, oh, really? We've got the... And I went, look, half an hour, we're just going to go up and see her. And I took 2 or 3 girls with me. And coming back, because she was telling them stories, and coming back, they were like, oh, she's only... Can we go and see her again sometime? I said, yeah, we can. It's just, you know, getting them to appreciate that, you know, doing things like that is so important. It meant the world to her. Absolutely. So I did sort of do a lot of that while I was at school teaching music at the same time.
I'm guessing that for the young girls, going to see someone for the first time like that, probably, you know, like you said, they were quite reluctant, but the stories that she was probably able to share, and be actually meeting someone that's in 3 figures.
Yeah.
It must have been pretty
gosh.
amazing, a pretty amazing experience. They'll never forget.
No, and they couldn't actually believe that someone who was that old, because I suppose when you're 15, you can't imagine being 102, can you?
Well, 25 years old, isn't it, when you're 15?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that she wanted to know all about them. And, you know, she told them she liked dancing. And, you know, she's a real character, I have to say. But it's just really good for them to learn to give to other people, really.
We were talking about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
That giving is so beneficial to the recipient, but also to the giver.
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly helped me to get over the loss of a child. I mean, I don't think there is anything very much worse than losing a child, to be honest. And at the time, we just threw ourselves into the charity. Certainly I did, and raising money. And I was on a treadmill, you know, it was like something positive had to come out of the negative that we'd had.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we did, and the more we would drop off a laptop to a girl, I remember, who was about 10, and she hadn't been to school for a long time because of all the chemo, and she wanted a laptop to go back, and we dropped off the laptop, and to her it was amazing. And so all that helped us to heal from losing our daughter. And so that's one reason I think it's really good for healing. And it's not, you know, it's not uncommon, is it, for if you're a member of a golf club and one of your mates has a heart attack on the golf course, the golf club will immediately do something for heart disease, or because it's everyone wants to do something, don't they, to make up for the fact that something awful has happened. But with something like volunteering, quite often people don't volunteer until they're retired and they've got lots of time. But there is research that shows those that do that, those that volunteer on a regular basis, actually live longer. It actually is better for their mental health. And obviously, whoever they're volunteering for, they are getting the benefits too, whether it's a charity or just a specific person that you go and visit and read the paper to. They're getting the benefits. I just think it's a win-win situation, really.
I think one really massive sign of what you were just saying there, Julie, was back in lockdown 1, as it's now called.
Yeah.
The government put out a call for help, and they were overwhelmed within a day with
Yeah.
people coming forward to volunteer to do all kinds of different things. And people often focus in this country and other places on the negative stuff that's going on, all the bad things. And I think it's such a shame that didn't get the very fact that all these people came forward and said, yeah, I'm ready, I want to help, was not overlooked, but kind of ignored almost. And it's such a shame because, as you said, when somebody has a heart attack in a golf club, especially if it's unexpected, people want to help. And I feel that they want to do that because otherwise they feel powerless.
Yeah.
You know, your poor daughter died at that tender age, and somebody having a heart attack that falls over and keels over. I had a friend of mine called Nick. He was about 30, and we were working together. He went off sick because he had a headache, and the headache got progressively worse over a couple of days. It got so bad that he was taken into hospital, and then the poor lad was dead within 24 hours. And it turned out that he'd had an aneurysm, something in his brain actually burst. And he was fit, he was healthy, he was never ill. He was the nicest guy you could ever want to meet. And as a result of that, people around me said, look, what can we do? And they started raising money for charity. They didn't actually start a charity, but they found a charity that was helping victims of this kind of illness. And I think it's because A, we don't want to think about it, and B, we don't want to be seen as powerless. And I think they're really good motivators to help people in times of need.
Yeah, and I think actually lockdown 1, 2 and 3 has brought out the best in people. People are looking out for people much more. I've met lots of people that live in sort of a cul-de-sac where they said they've actually got to know their neighbours. The clap for when they used to come out on a Thursday night and clap for the NHS, they hadn't spoken to a lot of those people in their close before. But now, probably at Christmas time, you know, they would have knocked on the door or sent them a card, whereas before they just did their job. Their lives were like this, and it has opened up people to think about other people much more, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think in times of adversity, people do tend to flock together to help each other out because we need it. We need that to feel that we are part of something, especially now with lockdown, because there's so many people that are living in little tiny pockets, little tiny islands, and they're not able to see their family and their loved ones. And I mean, this Christmas, as an example, was probably the first Christmas for a lot of people who normally have they're surrounded by family and friends. They go to friends for, Christmas dinner or the Boxing Day dinner. They get all the kind of different office parties and all that kind of stuff that normally happens around this time of year just got wiped out. And I think a lot of people really suffered with that they weren't able to have that connection which they'd normally get at this time of year, and what this time of year is really known for.
Yeah, I think it's been hard. Although I think also I was on a networking thing this morning, and there was a lawyer on there, and he was saying because there was just 3 of them, they've played more board games than they ever have before. And he said they got into mahjong apparently, and that seems to be the thing that has taken over. But again, it's good things. I mean, obviously the pandemic is absolutely dreadful, but lots of good things have come out of it as well, haven't they?
Absolutely. I think there's a tremendous amount of good has come out of it, and hopefully it will stay around once the pandemic is over, because this is a temporary situation. It might last a year, might last 18 months, might last 2 years, but at some stage it will end. And I just really hope all the good that's come out of this will kind of carry on and not fizzle out once it's over and done with.
Well, daily walks. I mean, we never, before we were actually still in the boarding house in the first lockdown, and my husband and I, of course, it was lovely weather then, wasn't it? It was the summer, and we would go for a walk every afternoon. And I said, I wonder if all these couples will continue to walk when it's all over. And obviously now we've moved house now, but we see lots of couples walking around here. And let's hope that's something that continues, because you do actually talk to each other if you're out walking generally. So, although I think divorce has also been on the rise during the pandemic, let's hope it might have brought people together as well, including couples, because you do have to talk to each other if you're walking around for an hour.
Yeah, I think it's both of the extremes have become really prevalent. I mean, I know a few people that work in the divorce industry, for want of a better phrase, and separations and requests for divorce have gone through the roof. But equally, I live in Folkestone, and Folkestone has a long, I'm not going to call it a promenade, but I have like a three quarter of a mile long, come on, say that, walkway. And you see lots of couples of all different ages walking up and down there, because it's a nice wide road, social distancing is fine. And it's on a day like today, it's a great place to walk. So I have seen a lot more people out as couples walking, which is really good to see.
Yeah, let's hope it carries on.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So you were telling me that as you've retired, you're looking for new and exciting things to do, and you become a speaker, or you've had some training to become a speaker and want to get out there.
Just overnight, I became a speaker.
Overnight.
Well, I suppose I was used to speaking. Obviously, living with 60 girls, I had to address them at every roll call, which was about 3 or 4 times a day, plus an assembly, plus talk to the whole school at certain times, 500 of them. So public speaking, and I also sing and play saxophone, and have fronted lots of bands over the years. So and public speaking is like entertaining, isn't it? So it's something that is not foreign to me. And so I was given the MBE. I had 4 months to think about what I was going to do with it. And so mainly, obviously, I want to use the MBE to raise awareness of the charities I'm involved with. But also, I've decided to do public speaking. And I had great training from Stephen Parry, who's in Cardiff. And I now have an agent, Sian Gunny Consulting. So she's my agent. She's great. And we've decided that, obviously, this is not the best time to try and launch yourself as a keynote speaker. So we're going to do a virtual world tour this year. And I've got lots of contacts across the world. It's just getting them to actually find out. Rotary is another one. We're trying to contact all the Rotaries across the world, and because they do have speakers all the time. And I didn't realise that Rotary actually started in Chicago. That's where the whole Rotary International everything started. So if anyone is out there, there's a member of Rotary in Chicago, we definitely want to do one in Chicago. So I want to go all over the world and give talks about really the story of my MBE. And it's quite a funny story. I won't go into it now, up to you. But I nearly deleted the email, so nearly didn't get it at all. Talk about living with 60 teenage girls, talk about Emily, obviously, and then talk about the power of giving. And I'd like to then encourage whoever I'm talking to, and I will investigate little charities, because I am really pro local small charities, because I think you see where your money goes much more. You know, you raise £1,000 for a small charity and you can actually take the check to them and they can say, oh, they'll take you around and show you where that £1,000 will go. Whereas, you know, British Heart Foundation I've already talked about, but, you know, a big charity like that, you send them £1,000, you don't really know, might cover someone's petrol. You know, I just feel quite passionately about local charities and seeing where your money goes. And I will investigate. So if I talk in Chicago, I'll investigate smaller charities and encourage the people I'm talking to. Because what I'd really like is, after I've left, that I will have galvanised them into action. And so my talk will have helped charities in that area, if you know what I mean. So that's my mission. It's my mission for 2021. And then obviously I'd like to do a TED talk.
A TED talk?
Yeah.
Where?
Like to do that.
Where would you like to do a TED talk? Locally or somewhere in the world? Well,
probably locally to start with. And then I'd like to do a big one, obviously. So we'll see what happens. You've got to have a goal, haven't you, Paul?
Absolutely. But I love the idea of local charities. I mean, I'm part of a very small group called Friends 500. And I think it's brilliant because each member gives £1 every single month. And then the organizer, Nick Perrins, and a small committee of members, they receive nominations. And we've helped charities in Africa. We've helped food distribution charities in the UK, but we've also helped individuals. One of the recent nominations, which I actually posted on my wall the other day, was, and it's horrible, and I just can't believe this still happens. There's a lady who was kept as a slave by her husband and his family, and she wasn't allowed out of the house, she wasn't allowed any money, doesn't have a bank account, doesn't have any ID at all, and has finally escaped this environment with her kids. And is finding it really difficult to get any support because she doesn't have any ID and she's not on anybody's radar. She's not part of social services. And apparently it was the police that actually intervened to get this lady out of this situation. And so, of course, this nomination came forward and we've given her, you know, £500. Now, me on my own, I could never do that.
Yeah.
Because I give this £1, it makes me feel great that because such a tiny, insignificant amount of money can do so much when it's grouped together in such a way.
I want to steal that idea, can I?
Absolutely. It's not my idea. There's a couple of other groups around, but it's a brilliant thing.
So do you pay £12 then once a year? You obviously
No,
don't pay a
not
pound
at all, no. Each one of us pays, this is why it's so brilliant, you pay £1 single pound every month. On the first of the month, £1 goes out of my bank account and goes into the charity account. Okay.
I like that a lot.
And it's a fact. What I'll do is I'll put you in contact with the organizer of our little group called Nick Perry.
Yeah.
And I think this is the 3rd or 4th group in the UK that does this. Because, you know, people think that when you have to give big amounts of money. Well, you don't. Because like I say, £1 is insignificant, but you put that together with 499 other pounds, and then you've got a nice amount of money, which will help somebody, you know, buy clothing, buy school stuff, buy food. It's amazing. When we bought fridges, we bought food, we've, you know, bought clothing and all kinds of things. And the other thing about it is that it makes me feel good, because sometimes I fall into a state where I start to feel sorry for myself for X, Y, or Z reason. And then I read one of these nominations and I go, Wilson, you're a bloody idiot. Look at this story you just read. Look how horrifying that is. You've got a roof over your head. You're not a slave. You've got, you know, you've got food and all this kind of stuff. It puts my life into perspective. And I wouldn't have that if I wasn't a member of this group. So yeah, I really love this idea of the fact that you're going to go around the world talking to people, but you're going to focus on what's happening in that group's local area and what they can do immediately and over the long term to help people in their own community. Because I think that has a much bigger impact for both the individual and the community as well.
Absolutely. And also, I think you knocked the nail on the head. It's not just about money. And I used to say this to the girls, you know, give money, give your time, give yourself. And giving time it costs you nothing. And that's what I do think, though, people have been better at, you know, just texting someone and saying, are you okay? Because there's a lot of people that are not okay that are living on their own. It's not just about money, but I think that is a fantastic idea. And I'm definitely going to set that up right here. But also, I'm going to hit my 60th birthday this year. And so I've also decided that I'd like to find 999 women that were born in 1961 or anywhere in the world. And I'd like them all to raise £100 each for Pied Piper, because the Pied Piper here, which is the children's charity I'm involved with, we're down 130,000. Last year, we didn't take 130,000 because we're very events-based. So we have a 2-day summer show that raises 40, a ball that raises 25, a golf day that raises 15. So we're very events-based, which is why that Friends 500 for Pied Piper would be great, because it would be money coming in. But because we lost that, I want to at least try and get 100,000 back. And I would, if I got 1,000 women born in 1961 from anywhere in the world to raise 100 quid, I'd raise 100,000. And I also think how interesting it would be to meet or be in contact with, because we could have a Facebook group or whatever. I wonder what they're doing. What have they learnt in their lives that are the same age as me? My sister said, I wonder if many of them would be called Julie, because I think I was named after Julie Andrews. I had 4 Julies in my class. And I wonder if there are any other Julies that were named after Julie Andrews. But how interesting to see where their lives have taken them, what we could all learn from each other, as well as hopefully raise 100,000. So that is another thing to do in 2021 for me.
That's a brilliant idea, because it's fascinating, because names, they go in cycles. My first name is Paul, and I was born in 1960, and I'm guessing that I was named after probably one of the apostles, because that was a very kind of Christian kind of period.
Oh, yeah. What else was? Yeah. And obviously, when Kylie Minogue was very popular, there were a lot of Kylies around, weren't there? And yeah, I definitely think it was Julie Andrews at my time. In fact, my sister said, why don't you form a separate group of Julies and get them all to raise £100 as well? This could be never ending, couldn't it? You know,
it could be never ending. I mean,
yeah.
my name is Paul Wilson. There are millions of Paul Wilsons. You can have a Facebook group of, you know, because I bet there's quite a few Julie Kents around the world as well.
There's a ballerina and an artist called Julie Kent. But so I always used to be under them in the Google, but now that I've got the MBE after it.
Oh, right at the top.
Yeah, at the top. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, so this, what is, I didn't go to boarding school. What is life like as, what do you call that? Were you a head of house or house?
No, I was a house mistress.
House mistress. What is life?
Yeah.
What is it like in that kind of environment?
It's amazing. It was like having 60 surrogate daughters. So we had a house built in this massive house. One end of it, we were on 3 floors. So we had a 4-bedroom house built inside this massive house. And I'll give you a typical day. So up at 6:45 to dish the phones out. So if you were in year 9 and 10, we took your phones overnight, and they were locked in matron's cupboard. And I would come out and about 7:20, dish out the phones back to them. And sometimes they were waiting on the sofa to get their phones back. And then we would all go over to the school dining room. So about 280 boarders, boys and girls. I just obviously had girls in my house, but 280 boarders all have breakfast in the dining room, which was great. It's like a hotel breakfast, honestly, amazing. Everything you could possibly think of. And then we would have roll call at 8:20. 3 mornings a week going to chapel, and you'd literally have a Bible reading, a message and a hymn. And we loved singing at Dean Close. Our chapel, we would lift the roof off. We absolutely loved it. And then off to lessons. And during that time, in 4 lessons in the morning, I might have 2 texts. Mrs. Ken, I can't stop crying. Mrs. Ken, I've turned up at games and I've got my tracksuit and I've got detention and that's not fair. Rah, 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 rah. Then you have lunch and then another roll call. Then off they go. And then we have supper, and then they're back in the house. They'll come back to the house in the afternoon, and there's a matron there. And then at night, you know, you have to collect the phones in again. They all go and do their homework. You give them back. And it's, weekends. I loved weekends because they would say if they lived if they lived about 40 minutes, 45 minutes away in the Cotswolds, they might go home at the weekend. Parents wanted to see them really, but they'd say, oh, what are we doing this weekend, Mrs. Kent? And I'd say, well, I've got a whole load of face packs and manicure sets. We can have a Domino's pizza delivery. I've got a chick flick ready. That Saturday night, and they'd be like, Mum, I'm not going to come home this weekend, I'm going to stay. And I wanted them to stay, you know, I wanted to have them with me. And then on a Sunday they could go into town, and at 3 o'clock every Sunday there was this amazing coffee shop called the Green Coffee Machine, and whoever was in at 3, I'd say, right, coffee shop, and we'd go down there and they'd have smoothies and we'd all sit around and chat. And oh, it was just, yeah, it was lovely. I just loved it. You never knew in the morning when you woke up what was going to happen. Because if you've got 60 daughters, imagine, you know, how many pairs of trainers. And they'd say, Mrs. Kent, I can't find my trainers. And I'd say, what colour are they? And they say, oh, white with a pink stripe. And I went, oh, I think they're behind the sofa in the TV room. Or, you know, it was, yeah, it was an honour. I would say, to be part of teenage girls' lives from the age of 13 to 18, and some of them, if they were a military family and their parents were abroad, or their parents were pilots or worked for Shell, and their parents lived in the United Arab Emirates or whatever, they were with me in those 5 years more than they were with their parents. And to be part of that was such an honour, you know, to share their first kiss with their boyfriend, to the first time they were dumped, to their first period, or, you know, all those things I shared with them. And, you know, I mean, Facebook is brilliant because now I'm still in contact with them. Some of them have brought their children back. Sadly, we planned a massive party for the end of my 30th year, and they were all coming back with their husbands, parents, everything. But of course, we didn't do it. Because of COVID, we couldn't do that in the June. So we are talking about, if it ever ends, that we will do a massive reunion and then a big black tie dinner just for the girls. So we'll have their families all day, but at night it will just be the girls that I've had and the pupils I've taught, which will be fantastic, you know.
It'll be a brilliant experience. What was the most challenging aspect of being a house mistress for 60 teenage girls?
Giving your time, you know, that took my giving to a whole new level, really. And like you say, to be a wife and a mother to 2 children and a sort of an auntie stroke mother stroke disciplinarian to 60 teenage girls in term time was challenging. Very challenging when the girls, you know, say it's a girl that's not eating or has quite, you know, difficult issues. That's really difficult to get them in the right place for someone to help them and to get the whole family unit to understand what is going on. And challenging, you know, there's been some really challenging times and some sad times, but very few. Generally, I just look at the whole experience as just an amazing time, really. Very lucky to have it.
Wow. It's a unique experience because not many of us have the opportunity to kind of live in that environment.
No, it's an amazing environment. I mean, they become very independent, I would say. They're pretty independent because when they're in the junior school part, you know, matron packs everything for them. But when they come up to the senior school age, you know, they have to do it for themselves and they have to travel on their own. And it is really good for them. And also they have to learn to live with people from other cultures. So that again is a skill, a life skill that I think is really important to carry through into their careers and everything, and to make friends from all over the world, really.
Yeah, there's
Great
one thing
opportunity.
that we need more of, more opportunity to mix different cultures and peoples and learn their stories. We were talking before
Yeah,
we sort
yeah,
of recorded about how important stories are,
yeah.
because since we were living around in a caves around a fire, we've shared stories. That's how we shared our knowledge and our learning. And I think if we can get an opportunity to be more diverse and to mix people from different backgrounds and different cultures, it will eventually lead to a much better understanding of the world around us.
Yeah, yeah. I quite often, before Christmas, I would get a Russian girl and a Spanish girl and an English girl and a Chinese girl, and they would tell their stories of what Christmas was like for them, so that we could all imagine what they were going to go home and celebrate. And all sorts of religions and cultures. It was an opportunity to really understand other people. And actually, sometimes the worst part was deciding who was going to share with who.
Oh,
So
God.
first year, 4 girls in a room. They're 13 then. 14 to 15, 2 in a room. And then in sixth form, 1 in a room. But I used to make the list and then I'd wait for the emails from the parents. My daughter does not want to share with this girl. Da, 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 da. Well, you're in boarding. You have to, there's always a Miss Popular that everyone wants to share with. And sometimes there's a Miss Unpopular that no one wants to share with because she might smell or whatever it is. And quite often I would say to someone, look, you're sharing with X. And it's only 10-week terms, more or less. I say, you're sharing with X, and I know you're not going to want to, but give me the choice of who you want to share with next term, and I'll let you share with, because I would never do the requests, because it would talk, but I would use it as leverage if I knew I was putting them with someone that they didn't want, and then I would let them share with, I'd let them choose the next term, because that was one of the worst parts of it.
Yeah, because I mean, even in sort of public, public schools, who you sit next to and which part of the group you're in is a big thing. So it must have been 10 times worse for boarders. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the only experience I have of that kind of environment is watching the Harry Potter movies, because obviously Hogwarts is a boarding school.
Yeah, this
But with
is
a bit
more
of a
like
twist.
this is more like a hotel, really, where you do some education, where you have some education as well. Honestly, it was quite luxurious. Most of the rooms had ensuite bathrooms, and like I say, I kind of turned into a red coat at Butlins at the weekend. I just put loads of things on for them so that they had a great time. I really wanted them in 20 years' time, when they are telling their daughters, because I meet people my age who went to boarding school, and they say, oh, it was awful, and my house mistress was a wicked witch, and I want the girls that I had say, oh, we had such a great time, and Mrs. Kent took us to the cinema. I mean, taking 60 girls to the cinema was hilarious, because they were just so noisy with all the crisps and the popcorn. I'd be going, shh, and we once got on a bus on the way back, and a National Express, the bus that took us from town back to school, and they all started singing a hymn on the bus. Oh my word, the staff I took with me, they said, I can't believe we are on a public bus and all these girls are singing, but great times.
So when's the book coming out?
Oh, really? Do you think I should write one? Someone has suggested that. Do you think I should do a book just on the life in a boarding house?
Well, no, I mean, you write a book about your life, and then your future books can expand on different aspects of your life.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I've got time to write a book at the moment, but it is. It's on Sian's list, definitely. My agent, she keeps saying write a book.
Yeah, because I mean, all the big international speakers have books that people can refer to, can't they? So it's better than a business card, they say, having a book written.
Well, I did joke with the girls, actually, because I've got all the diaries. So every night that one of my team, a teacher, would be on duty, they'd do 1 night a week. They had to write in the book, what had happened. So-and-so was upset. So-and-so and so-and-so fell out. They had a fight, rah, rah, rah. So I've got all the books. I brought them with me. And so I've got lots of things to write, and I can look back and write them. And the girls in the last few years said, can we be in the book? Can we be in the book? And I said, yes, you can be in the book. Because I did joke that I would write the life of a crazy house mistress. because I don't think I was your normal house mistress, really.
I will definitely write a book. That sounds like a great title.
Yeah. So, okay, Paul, you've inspired me. I'll get on it.
Okay, last couple of questions. I think I know the answer to this first one. If you could go back 30, 40 years, would you change anything?
Oh, gosh, probably not. No. Obviously, I wouldn't want to have a daughter and have her taken away. But, and sometimes, you know, when you lose someone, you think, why did it happen to me? And I can only think it happened to us because we did something about it. So no, I wouldn't really change anything.
Now, I mean, life, I'm not going to say life is suffering, but life is a challenge from day one till the last day, isn't it, really? I mean, if our lives were flat, we'd be pretty much dead. Our lives are peaks. They're like a mountain range. Our lives are like Switzerland. You know, you have these plateaus, then you have these sudden spiky mountains, and behind it there's another dip and another plateau, and it's ups and downs. That's what life's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has, what do you call it, plain sailing or smooth sailing through life. Life makes us, you know, stronger, different, better, whatever phrase you want to use. But that's what life does. It just throws things at us and see how we come out the other side.
Yeah, and I try and live every single minute of it. You know, I don't waste any. I don't really watch TV. I do spend a lot of time on social media, I've got to say, but putting a message out there about giving a lot of the time, try to be funny. But I just try and live every minute of every bit that we've got of life. So.
Really good thing to say. You know, you have to use your life to the best of your ability, because as far as we know, it's the only one we get. We don't get a second chance. It's not kind of like a 7-day trial or a buy one get one free, is it?
And we don't know when it's going to be taken away. That's the thing, I think. So make the most of it, I say. Yeah,
absolutely. Any final words, any sort of last things you want to say, Julie?
No, so I hope everyone has a great 2021, and I hope everyone gets a chance to give in some way, whether it's just, you know, ringing someone once a week or maybe raising some money for charity. But if you do, please tag me in. I'd love that. And I'd love to come and speak to any groups that you have. Just contact me and I'll babble on. I'll babble.
Where can people get hold of you, Julie? What's the best place to connect with you?
Well, my website is juliekentmbe.com, and my email is hello@juliekentmbe.com. I'm all over social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Julie Kent MBE. So I'm pretty easy to track down, really. And I'd love to hear from people. If you've listened to this and you've enjoyed it, then please message me.
Okay, don't worry about memorizing all those links. I will put them in the show notes. It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure chatting with you today, Julie. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for asking me. I've really enjoyed it too. Thank you.
Best of luck with the virtual world tour.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.